Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to tackle something that's, well, it's a real psychological puzzle. It kind of slips our whole understanding of survival right on its head, a bond that can form in the most terrifying circumstances imaginable.
It's a question that's just so tough to ask, right? Especially when you see it happening to someone you love. It's a situation that just seems to defy all common sense.
And believe it or not, the answer to that question, a term you've probably heard, didn't come from a therapy session, it came from a bank vault. Yeah, the story behind it is just as wild as the psychology it describes.
Okay, so picture this. For 6 long days, these 4 people are held captive. And what happens when they get out? It just blows everyone's mind. Instead of being angry, they were compassionate. They actually defended their captors in court. I mean, how does that even happen? So this totally bizarre outcome is what gave us the term Stockholm Syndrome. And really, what it boils down to is a deeply wired survival instinct. See, when you're faced with a life or death threat, your brain just goes into survival mode. It's not a choice you make. It's your subconscious trying to do anything to keep you alive. So how on earth does your brain build this strange connection? Well, psychologists have actually broken it down into a pretty clear 4-stage process. Yeah, it's a 4-part journey, and it's kind of like a psychological downward spiral. It all kicks off with this huge threat to your life. But then, weirdly, it gets softened by these little unexpected moments of kindness. Add in being completely cut off from the outside world, and pretty soon you start to believe the person threatening you is also the only one who can save you. Okay, so let's bring this out of the bank vault and into a relationship. That first ingredient, it's that awful, constant feeling of walking on eggshells. It's a real, genuine fear for your emotional or even physical safety. That threat is just always there, kind of simmering. And then, right in the middle of all that fear, you get this tiny little glimmer of hope. The abuser does something kind, a compliment, a gift, maybe just a moment of quiet. And because you're so used to the fear, that tiny little gesture feels huge. It feels like a lifeline, right? Like maybe, just maybe, things could actually get better. So after that, the walls start to close in. The abuser just systematically cuts you off from your support system. Your friends, your family, anyone who might say, hey, this isn't right. And your world just gets smaller and smaller until their version of reality is the only one you've got. Their voice becomes the only one you really hear. And all of that leads to the final and most dangerous step. You become totally dependent. You genuinely start to believe that your happiness, your safety, your whole life, it's all in their hands. You're basically psychologically tied to the very person you're afraid of. Okay, so here's something really important to get. This isn't just about bank robberies and hostage situations. While, Stockholm Syndrome isn't an official diagnosis you'll find in the big psych manuals, the pattern behind it, oh yeah, that shows up in a lot of different and, unfortunately, common situations. I mean, just think about it for a second. It could be that friend who's always defending their super controlling partner, or the coworker who, for some reason, just idolizes their toxic boss, or even a family member who seems stuck in this endless loop of emotional abuse. The setting is different, sure, but that psychological trap, it's exactly the same. So what should you be looking for? Well, the signs can be pretty subtle. It starts with developing actual sympathy for the abuser. You start hearing excuses like, oh, they were just really stressed, or they didn't really mean it. And the biggest red flag? When they start pushing away the people, their friends, their family, who are trying to help. Look, getting a handle on this pattern is not about blaming the person who's going through it. Not at all. It's about empowerment. Because really, the first step to finding the key is just recognizing that you're in a cage to begin with. We really have to remember what this is at its core. It is a powerful, deep-seated survival mechanism. It's just a stunning testament to the wild and sometimes terrifying ways our minds will bend to get through something unbearable. This is a coping strategy, It's not a flaw in their character. When you really understand this syndrome, it forces you to stop and think, to look past snap judgments and find a deeper sense of empathy for people who might be trapped. But it also leaves us with this big question, doesn't it? In a world where kindness can be used as a weapon, how do we make sure that it stays a source of safety and not a tool for control, for ourselves and for the people we care about? And as we've seen today, that first, most powerful step is always awareness.